Welcome to About Face Theatre presents 5 Questions With, and today's guest, casting director Alaine Alldaffer. Alaine is the casting director for Playwrights Horizons in New York City, for whom her credits include Grey Gardens and Clybourne Park, including their Broadway transfers, and Circle Mirror Transformation, winner of Drama Desk and Obie Awards for Ensemble, and an Artios Award for casting. Alaine is also cast for other major theatres, including Soho Rep, Arena Stage, the Huntington, and the Williamstown Theatre and Humana festivals, while her TV credits include The Knights of Prosperity, Ed, and Monk. Alaine, you're very welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. So we like to just get right to the point. So we're gonna start with what play or experience first got you into theater?
Oh, wow. Okay. I guess, everybody has that story, right? About when they were bitten by the bug.
Yeah.
And I guess I was 5 years old, and I was in a play. It was my kindergarten, and it was called Going to the Zoo. I still remember the performance was on my 5th birthday. So I remember it vividly. And I still remember all of the I remember all the songs, and I remember all my lines still all these years later. So I guess that's where it all started. And I was really fortunate because my community had a very well-funded community theater, and I was involved with that until I went to college. I went to Michigan School of the Arts to a conservatory program, and then I transferred to NYU. I was at NYU for a little while, and then I got a job as a magician's assistant on a cruise ship. So I did that for 2 years.
Amazing.
Yes. It was a very interesting time in my life. Yeah. And then it's funny. Then I sort of took a detour, and I went to paralegal school. I did pre-law at a school, and I was in the paralegal program, and I became a paralegal, and I worked for a very large law firm. And actually one of my first assignments, I worked on Donald Trump's first bankruptcy. So
Oh, no way.
So that's another play. That's a whole nother play. But it was very interesting. But I always missed being part of this community, and I missed theater, and I got back into it. I was really lucky. I had an opportunity to work with James Cleary, and then he was asked to be the casting director of Playwrights Horizons, and then I came with him, and then he left in 2005, and I took over. So I've been at Playwrights for 25 years. It's been an amazing. I always say I'm a lifer, and there's a few of us there. It's such an amazing organization. Nobody ever wants to leave, but it's been an incredible journey.
Yeah, seen so many things, I'm sure.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So Alaine, obviously you've worked on so many plays at this point, but it doesn't even have to be one of the plays you've worked on or a new play, but what's a great play that you love and why?
There are many. I have to say, and it's not a Playwrights Horizons play, but I have to say A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I've cast quite a few productions of that show, believe it or not. And I was lucky enough to work with Lise Latami on one of the productions, Kenny Leon on the Broadway production. I actually worked on the Broadway production with Sean Combs and Felicia Rashad and Audra McDonald and Sanaa Lathan. And that was an amazing experience. And I was sort of turned on to her writing. I've actually read many of her plays that nobody's ever heard of. I think she was an extraordinary talent. But I think what was so remarkable about her was that at the time that she wrote that play, a lot of theater makers felt like the Black audiences wouldn't come to see it, and they did. They came in droves, and not only Black audiences but white audiences. And it proved to theater makers that people were interested in everyone's stories and not just their own stories. And I think that was what's so remarkable. And I feel like theater kind of has gotten away from that a little bit, and now we're coming back. And people are starting to realize, well, if you ignore your Black audiences are going to ignore you. So people are starting to realize that. And so I feel like it's a secular thing. We've sort of come full circle. And theater makers are starting to realize that with, Slave Play on Broadway, and other plays that are getting a lot of attention, and should be getting a lot of attention. The other play, I would say, the Playwrights Horizons play that I think is a great play, which is actually connected to A Raise in the Sun, is Clybourne Park. And I love that play so much. I love Bruce Norris. He's just so funny and irreverent and provocative in a good way, because he makes everybody think, because he calls everybody out. And I love the way that he loosely connected those two plays. And it created renaissance for that play, for Raisin in the Sun, because so many theaters were doing it in repertory. They were doing Raisin in the Sun and then in the Clybourne Park. So I felt like that was the genius of a modern playwright being inspired by a play that was written 50 years ago, and breathing new life into it.
Excellent. So you're talking a little bit about the surprise that theater people had when with Raisin in the Sun, that it attracted audiences from everywhere. So for you, has there been anything, can you tell us about a time in your theater life where something turned out, where it turned out differently than you had expected?
Yeah, it's so interesting when you're doing new work, because you it's always a roll of the dice. You never really know. You think you're going to have an amazing play and it's going to be amazing, it's going to be a hit and everybody's going to love it, and then it doesn't happen. And that can be so heartbreaking. I guess the one that comes to mind is This Flat Earth, which is a play by Lindsay Ferrantino, and it was about a school shooting. And I spent a year looking for an actress, because it's a 12-year-old girl. And I spent a year looking for an actress who could play the part, who could carry the play, because she never leaves the stage, and who goes through that emotional journey 8 times a week. And I actually found her. It was Ella Davis. She's 13 years old. And actually, she was 12 when the show started and 13 when the show opened. And she's, I thought, this is going to launch her career. This play is going to be, it's going to be it for her. And also this play was really important because it was about school shootings. The day they started rehearsals was the day of the Parkland shooting.
Oh my God.
And suddenly the entire narrative of school shootings changed in a way that made that play obsolete, and not really relevant anymore. And so the audiences and the critics did not embrace it in the way I was hoping they would. Even though the general theme of it was still, the core of it, the bones of it were there. It just felt kind of like, well, we've seen this story. We're living this story.
Alaine, so you were talking there about that you've been working at Playwrights Horizons for a couple of years. So what keeps you coming back to the theater? What moves you? What excites you about theater?
I guess, it's the idea that you never know what's going to happen. It's like every night is a different experience. And, being part of the artistic staff at Playwrights Horizons, of course, I see plays over and over and over. The same play, but it's never the same because, with the changing audience and actually with the just like spontaneity of the actors, it's like always different. Somebody said this, I don't know who said this, but I always think of this when I'm in the theater. I always think it's people in the light telling stories to people in the dark. And I'm always just so in awe. It's like my church. I'm always so in awe of the power of story and how important that is. And how, sorry, I'm just like,
that's good.
And how important that is, and theater's responsibility as a healing art to tell those stories, to help shape the narratives that need to be shaped, in our world with all of the social injustice and all of the problems. And it's exciting to be sort of part of that. And I guess that's what keeps me inspired. And also actors. I love actors. And I love their bravery, and I love how their stamina and fortitude and their curiosity, and how they get on that stage night after night after night and just inspire audiences all over the world. So that is what keeps me so excited and jazzed.
Yeah, excellent. I love it. So do you think, Alaine, that there's any tools, from the theater, either from your training or from being a magician's assistant, or from or from casting, that you've learned, that you've used, tools in theater that you find are helpful in the rest of life?
That's one of the wonderful things about being part of the family, the Playwrights Horizons family, is the plays that we tell, the stories we tell. What comes to mind right now is I remember when I was working on the Craig Lucas play. Now the name of it just went out of my head. I always think of Prayer for My Enemy, because that's one of my other favorite Craig Lucas plays. Okay, I had to cast an alternate cast of deaf actors. So we had two casts going on at the same time. We all learned sign language, so that we could communicate with our hearing impaired cast. And that was such a privilege to do that. And it was terrifying, because I'll never be able to do this. I'm too old to learn a language. I'm too old to learn a new language. But what other jobs do you have opportunities like that? When we were doing the Thanksgiving play, Larissa Fassworth is the writer. I never thought about what land I was on, and now I know I live on Lenape, Dakota territory land. I just have become more aware of indigenous peoples, and how we are like living, how we've invaded their land and living on their land, and how important their stories are. And so that's the great thing about being part of this community, is like it's like anthropology, it's psychology, it's everything, it's all the ologies. You're constantly learning about new worlds and new people and new ideas and new ways of life. So you're always evolving. And I think that's what's kind of amazing about being part of this world.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. That's fantastic. Well, this has been so great, Alaine. Thank you so much. And just as a bonus question, can you tell us anything about what you're working on at the moment?
Okay. Well, some of the plays that we had started before COVID are coming back, or we're bringing it back in. So Selling Cobble is coming back, and that is going to be with the original cast, thank goodness, because they are amazing. I'm so excited. We are going to be able to keep working with them. Tambo and Bones, and I hope you all get a chance to see that, because it's genius. And Soundstage, which is the Playwrights Horizons podcast series, and I'm working on season 2. And that was something that we started way before COVID, way before COVID. And then but then we had to fast track it when COVID happened. So we had to have product to deliver to our audiences. So, but we're really proud of it, and it's winning all kinds of awards, and it's quite brilliant. I'm also working on another podcast, which is like, sometimes I do freelance. We all have our side hustles when we're in the theater. So I'm working on this. I'm working on a podcast for a major media company, and it's a scripted action adventure. Can't tell. Oh, fun! But it's really fun. I'm having a blast working on that. So there's stuff is happening.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great. Well, Alaine, thank you so much. I mean, what a treat! Such a treat to see and talk to you and talk all things theater. And a huge thank you to our audience for joining us. And if you enjoyed the interview, please do like and share, because We believe theater makes life better. So see you next time on About Face Theater presents 5 Questions With.
Enjoyed this video? Please subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and share. Thanks for watching.